In this video, we'll dive into the chilling story of Aileen Wuornos, the highway killer who murdered 7 men in just 1 year. We'll explore her troubled childhood, the path that led her into a life of crime, and how it all came crashing down with her arrest. Make sure to watch the video till the end, as we're going to uncover creepy details hidden within her story. Aileen Wuornos, one of America's most notorious female serial killers, was born on February 29, 1956 in Michigan. Like many individuals who go down a dark path, the roots of her profound psychological disturbances can be traced back to a profoundly unstable childhood. Her mother, Diane Wuornos, married Aileen's father, Leo Pittman, when she was just 14 and he was 18. While such young marriages were more common at the time, they were undoubtedly too young to handle the immense responsibilities of parenthood. Shortly after, their first child, Keith, was born. Diane filed for divorce at 16, a decision made just 2 months before she became pregnant with Aileen. Consequently, Aileen never met her father and had no idea what he looked like or who he was. Years later, in 1966, Aileen's father was arrested and sentenced to life in prison for the kidnapping and rape of a 7-year-old girl. Compounding his criminal behavior, he also suffered from severe mental health issues, including schizophrenia. In 1969, he was found dead in his prison cell, having taken his own life. The news of these events was understandably devastating for Diane. Young, alone, and raising 2 children, she was overwhelmed. Ultimately, she made the difficult decision to give up her children, Keith and Aileen, leaving them with her own parents. However, Aileen's grandparents' home was far from a safe haven. Their environment was abusive and unhealthy, exacerbated by their struggles with alcohol addiction. As Aileen grew older, by the age of 11, she began to use drugs and smoke daily. To fund her drug habit, she started engaging in sex work at night. It's even been suggested that her exploitation extended beyond strangers, reportedly involving her older brother. Aileen and Keith were born into a difficult and unhealthy environment, moving from an incarcerated, mentally ill father to a mother who was too young to cope, and finally to grandparents grappling with addiction and violence. Aileen's grandfather, for instance, would regularly beat her with a belt, escalating to the point where he would assault her while she was undressed and even abuse her on multiple occasions. These deeply traumatic experiences reveal the immense suffering Aileen endured in her childhood, experiences that would undoubtedly shape her future in profoundly damaging ways. By 1971, Aileen was just 14 years old, but her life on the streets had taken a devastating turn. She was pregnant. Forced to give up her son for adoption, she faced another pivotal moment. While some say she ran away from her grandfather's house, others claim he threw her out. What's certain is that she became homeless, sleeping in old cars in the woods. That same year, her grandmother died of liver failure, leaving Aileen truly alone. She had no family, no friends, no one to care or even ask if she was okay. The isolation and loneliness must have been immense. Life on the streets continued, and by age 16, Aileen began hitchhiking along highways, trading sex for rides and money. She made her way to Colorado, a warmer climate than the snow-covered Michigan of her birth. Just 2 years later, she faced her first arrest for driving under the influence, and officers found a firearm in her possession. In 1976, at 20 years old, Aileen moved from Colorado to Florida. Soon after arriving, she surprisingly fell in love and decided to marry. Her husband, an older man named Louis, was 69 and a wealthy yacht club president. For Aileen, this presented an opportunity to stabilize her life, and she quickly took it. However, the age gap and Aileen's own volatile nature made for a doomed marriage. She physically abused Louis and caused numerous problems, leading him to end their marriage after only a few weeks. That same year, Aileen received shocking news from her family. Her brother Keith had died from esophageal cancer. However, this tragedy came with a small inheritance of $10,000. Aileen immediately squandered it on frivolous things like weapons and luxury hotel rooms. Once the money was gone, she resorted to robbery and armed assault, using the very weapons she'd just purchased. In 1981, she was arrested for robbing a convenience store and spent over a year in prison. Her time in prison didn't help her change. She kept getting worse. There were even claims from men that she'd held a gun to their heads, demanding money. These incidents clearly showed Aileen was a woman spiraling out of control, unable to manage her severe emotional impulses. Then, in 1986, Aileen met a woman named Tyria Moore. Tyria profoundly changed Aileen's life. She became a soulmate, the person Aileen wanted to spend the rest of her life with. Aileen was so desperate to please Tyria, so deeply in love, that she returned to sex work to earn money for her new girlfriend. By 1989, Aileen was 33 and living with Tyria, committing minor crimes to get by. But these small offenses were only a prelude to far more serious ones. Before we reveal the chilling ways she murdered her victims, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Your support makes a big difference to our channel. One fateful night, Richard Mallory, 51 years old, pulled over for Aileen, who offered to join him for drinks at a bar. In a chillingly sudden move inside his car, Aileen produced a weapon and shot him. She then stole his camera and a radar detector, selling them for cash. Mallory's body was discovered 2 weeks later, but with no immediate leads, the motive for Aileen's first murder remained a mystery. Prior to this, she had stolen from people, but never killed. Looking back at her past, Aileen had suffered repeated abuse from men, starting with her grandfather. After her ill-fated marriage, she avoided male romantic relationships, choosing instead Tyria Moore. This deep-seated aversion to men may explain her sudden, violent turn. 6 months after her first murder, a disturbing realization solidified in Aileen's mind. Violence was power. She began planning her next victim. For her, as a woman, it was disturbingly easy to lure men, offering sexual encounters. This gave her an almost predatory freedom to choose her victims based on age, appearance, and even race. She consistently targeted white men, typically between 40 and 55 years old, who were traveling alone on highways. On May 1st, 1990, Aileen was walking along the highway when 43-year-old David Spears pulled over to offer her a ride. As soon as she got into his car, Spears began to undress. Aileen responded with 6 fatal shots. Spears had last been seen leaving his home to meet his ex-wife. After his disappearance, he was reported missing, and his body was found 2 weeks later on the highway. On May 31st, 1990, 40-year-old Charles Cascadden was heading home to his fiancée after visiting his mother when he came across Aileen. By now, this was routine. After getting into his car, Aileen immediately demanded he undress. She then got out of the car, pointed her gun at him, and ended his life with 6 shots, solidifying her sense of dominance. After confirming he was dead, she drove his car and dumped his body back on the highway. On June 7, 1990, Aileen returned to the same stretch of highway where she had already claimed 3 victims, now hunting for a 4th. That night, 65-year-old Peter Seams, a devout Christian, pulled over. He was out volunteering, spreading the teachings of his faith. He encountered Aileen on her usual hunting ground. As was her custom, she got into his car. Aileen, perhaps perceiving his religious demeanor as hypocritical, immediately killed him. During this period, Aileen was living in hotels with Tyria, who was either unaware of the crimes, truly ignorant of how Aileen acquired so much money, or simply suspected something was amiss. What is certain is that in 1990, Aileen murdered and robbed 4 individuals in less than 7 months. The analysis of the bodies revealed the depth of her rage. Each victim had sustained multiple gunshot wounds, far more than necessary to end their lives. She consistently stole their belongings and sold them. On July 30th, 1990, Aileen chose her 5th victim, a 50-year-old man named Troy Burris, a salesman. His body was found by Marion County law enforcement on August 4th, 1990, less than a week after he was reported missing. Despite the body being decomposed, the medical examiner confirmed he died from 2 gunshots to the torso. On September 12, 1990, the body of Charles Humphreys was found in Marion County. Humphreys, a retired Air Force major, former police chief, and Florida child abuse investigator, had suffered multiple gunshots to the head and torso. His car was later located in Suwannee County. On November 19, 1990, the partially disrobed body of Walter Antonio, 62, was discovered in a remote part of Dixie County. He had been shot 4 times in the back and head. Antonio's car was found 5 days later in Brevard County. With these brutal incidents piling up, the big question remains: how did the police know that Aileen was the one committing these crimes? The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place following an unexpected incident. One seemingly normal day, Aileen and Tyria decided to head to a Florida beach to watch fireworks, driving Peter Seam's car. On their way, the car swerved off the highway and crashed. Unable to restart the vehicle, the 2 women fled the scene, but not before witnesses saw them, even noting that they were trying to remove the license plate. Someone reported the accident, and when police arrived, Aileen and Tyria were gone. The license plate was indeed missing. However, by using the car's vehicle identification number, officers quickly identified the owner as Peter Seams, a man who had already been reported missing. The witnesses' descriptions of 2 women driving the car prompted a broader search. Inside Seams's abandoned car, investigators found something crucial: pawnshop tickets. This was a major lead. Police immediately went to the pawn shop mentioned on the tickets. What they found there was astounding. They found a camera and a radar detector that had been stolen from Richard Mallory, Aileen's 1st victim. They also found other stolen goods from David Spears, her 2nd victim. This was the breakthrough. Peter Seams's car was then sent for a full forensic examination. There, investigators found Aileen's fingerprints on various surfaces inside the vehicle. This was a critical match, made even easier because Aileen's fingerprints were already on file from her previous arrest for driving under the influence. With Aileen's fingerprints found in Peter Seam's car and stolen items from multiple victims being traced back to her through pawn shop records, the police now had concrete evidence. The pattern of the murders also became clearer. Middle-aged or older men, often traveling alone, found along highways, all shot with a .22 caliber pistol. Now it might seem like Aileen's capture was inevitable, an easy next step, but this woman, the notorious highway killer, remained free. She continued to evade authorities, living her life until that one day that changed everything. On January 8, 1991, undercover officer Mike Joyner tracked Aileen down to a biker bar near Daytona, close to a motel where she was staying. Joyner knew that to get close to someone as dangerous and vindictive as Aileen, money was key. He began buying her beers and cigarettes, playing pool with her. Every time I took money out of my pocket, I let her see the $100 bills, Joyner recalled. They kept up this routine for 3 days. Aileen was surprisingly open, telling him how sad and lonely she was. She even mentioned her girlfriend, Tyria Moore, and how they had broken up, with Tyria moving back up north. On their 2nd day together, while playing pool, Aileen suddenly hit him across the back with a pool stick. Startled, he looked at her and asked, "Why in the world did you do that?" Her exact words were chilling. "Honey, I don't know. Sometimes it just comes over me." The day after this unsettling incident, Aileen told Joyner to meet her at her motel. "She made the statement to me," Joyner recounted, "let's go out tonight and bring all your money and I'm going to show you a good time." At that point, Joyner knew what his next move had to be. He gave the signal to his team listening in. To keep Aileen engaged, he told her he would get a motel room. As Aileen casually walked out of the bar with Joyner, other officers, including Larry Horzepa, moved in. She was immediately arrested, not for murder initially, but on an outstanding warrant for a weapons charge. The very next day, Aileen's girlfriend, Tyria Moore, was also arrested. Police immediately saw an opportunity. They offered Tyria a deal. If she cooperated and provided more evidence against Aileen, she would be granted immunity from prosecution. Tyria agreed, and police carefully recorded her statements, knowing her testimony would be crucial.
Lee, they're coming after me. I know they are.
No, they're not.
What?
I'm not going to go to jail or anything. If I have to confess, I will.
Okay. Yes. Why the hell did you do this? Why did you do this?
This is Ty.
Wait.
I'll probably never be able to see you.
Yes.
I love you. If I have to confess everything just to keep you from getting hurt, I will.
Okay.
I love you.
No. We'll do it now. Get it over with.
Right this very moment?
Yes. Get it over with.
All right.
Aileen's trial for first-degree murder began on January 13th, 1992. Just 2 weeks later, on January 27th, she was found guilty of killing Richard Mallory and was sentenced to death. Surprisingly, after this conviction, Aileen decided to confess to 5 more murders. She explained that since she was already facing execution for the first victim, she might as well confess to the others. She also stated she didn't want to endure more court appearances or face Tyria again. By November 1992, Aileen Wuornos had received 6 death sentences. Although she killed 7 individuals, Peter Siems's body was never found, so he was not officially counted among the convictions. After a decade of appeals, Aileen Wuornos was executed by lethal injection on October 9, 2002. Before her execution, she participated in a final recorded interview. So after hearing her story, how do you see Aileen Wuornos? Was she a victim of a terrible life, mental illness, and exploitation that led her down a dark path? Or was she a cold-blooded serial killer driven by rage and hatred, using her past as an excuse for her actions? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And before you go, if you think Aileen was a dangerous serial killer, you might be wrong. Check out our other videos about serial killers. We dive into even more chilling details about their stories. Thanks for watching.